Welcome to another episode of Euphoric, the podcast. I just got back from an incredible trip from South Africa. I don't always share all about my trips on the podcast, but I just had such a mind-blowing experience, learned so much, had such huge perspective shifts that I just had to tell you all about it. So I was invited earlier this year from a past client to speak at her first retreat. Now, she's not from Cape Town, but she married someone who's from Cape Town. So I was, like, there's so much travel I have going on this year, but, I had never been to the African continent before in my life. Cape Town seems to be so buzzworthy right now. So many different travel influencers are talking about it that I knew I had to say yes. So I'm so excited to have been able to go and guest speak at this retreat. And we start the trip off in Istanbul because the direct flight from Los Angeles to there, there is no direct flight from Los Angeles to Cape Town. So our layover was in Istanbul. I have been to Turkey before, but I'd never been in Istanbul before. So I knew I wanted to spend a few days there. And it was so cool. I don't know if you guys know this, but I was an art history major in college. So I kind of geek out about the old monuments, like the classical history and stuff like that. And to be in a city that is so old, it was one of the huge epicenters of culture, especially as the Roman Empire was falling in the West. Like this was the Byzantine Empire that was really growing and flourishing at that time. And so the Hagia Sophia is 1,500 years old. It is this incredible monument that has survived. It's like the test of time, and it's been a church and it turned into a mosque and a museum and all these different things over time. And just to be able to see that and experience that, like, wow, there's like not only emperors walked in here, but then like the Vikings came and like graffitied it a little bit. It's just like so cool, the history of it. We also saw the Basilica cisterns, which are these underground, like kind of like a waterway of like columns and where the water used to be stored in something like really beautiful. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Dan Brown movie called Inferno, but that's where the movie ends up, is in these basilica cisterns. And it's just so beautiful to actually be there. The culture was really wild too, just being immersed in this like beauty of like East and West. It's like not so Islamic as some other fairly conservative countries, but also definitely not just European. Like it's very much this blend of like exoticness and fresh pomegranate juice everywhere. And like the call to prayer was really beautiful. And then there's some parts of the city that are more conservative than others. So you'll see women more covered up and stuff like that. So we took ferries to all different sides of the city and just wandered around the neighborhoods and took in the historic sites and ate a lot of really good Turkish food. And then it was on to South Africa. Now, I wanted to share this part of the story because when I was first kind of on my entrepreneurial journey and like looking for other mentors to follow and just to like see what was possible, I remember finding a woman who loved to travel as well, of Eastern European descent. And that really kind of mattered to me because I've thought that if you grew up with like Slavic and communist era parents, like you're going to be frugal forever. There's just so much ingrained in your subconscious mind. So it's so cool to see someone from that like part of the world just become like a millionaire and achieve all her dreams. And it just made me believe that if she could do it, I could do it. And watching her travel and just take her family around the world has just been so cool. And I have like other mentors now and stuff like that. But I really watched her travel a lot to Africa. And I'd never been before, so I've seen her go on safaris and I've seen her do these different trips with giraffes and gorillas and stuff like that. And I think it warmed me up to this idea. Like, I don't know if it was on my vision board before that, but it really warmed me up to this, like, wow, that would be so cool to experience that and to have that experience. So I kind of hope this podcast episode can be that for you too. Like, if that's something you'd want to experience in your life, if you'd love to go on a safari or see parts of Africa too, like, I hope this is the episode for you. So we go to Cape Town and I'm part of this incredible business retreat and we are in a beautiful neighborhood of the suburbs basically of Cape Town. And first when you get there, like it's just jaw dropping. Like the city is probably one of the most dramatic cities you've ever seen with the coastline. Not only is it that beautiful, like wild ocean, it's not like a calm sea, it's very cold, it's a wild, wild ocean. Like if you've seen my octopus teacher, you know what I'm talking about. But it also is juxtaposed with these huge mountains and these huge cliffs that literally end right on the ocean. There's probably like more more mountains on the coast than anywhere I've ever seen before. Like maybe Rio in Brazil would be a close second, but these are even bigger and even more dramatic. So it's just crazy the natural beauty that you're witnessing. And so we do the retreat. I get to guest speak on how to become a thought leader and write your best-selling book. It was just such an eye-opening talk, and I'm so excited. 2 of my clients were able to come on the retreat with me too, just incredible people. One was local from South Africa, one came from the UK, so it was so cool to share that experience. And we got to learn from each other and like speak and really just kind of hang out and see like Cape Town and stuff like that, which was really, really cool, and just like that beautiful natural beauty with that. And then my husband and I decided let's take this adventure further. So we did another tour after the retreat ended, and we went to what's called the Garden Route, which is like this beautiful corridor east of Cape Town that is kind of between the Western Cape and a little bit of the Eastern Cape as well. And it is like this beautiful coastline, and it also becomes more lush and more jungly. So like looking on a map, when you do the latitude of Cape Town, it's really similar to the latitude of where I live in Orange County, actually. Obviously, but flipped, right? So they're in the Southern Hemisphere, we're in the Northern Hemisphere. And so that's kind of the obviously way more dramatic, way more beautiful, I think, than maybe where I live as just the like physical attributes of that place. But when we went into the garden route, it was a lot more jungly, a lot more lush and stuff like that. And we got to do a safari. So we did an incredible safari. It was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And it was one of the big 5. So if you're not sure what the big 5 is, maybe you've heard that word thrown around a few times. The big 5 are supposedly the animals in Africa that are the most dangerous or the most disruptive to humans. So like they're maybe the scariest, I guess. They're not just the biggest, but the ones that also can be the most like do harm to you kind of a thing. So they include the elephant, which by the way, you would never want to be stampeded by an elephant. Like the elephants are gentle and beautiful animals, but if they think that you are a threat, they will attack. So the elephant, the hippo. So the hippo is definitely one of the most dangerous animals in Africa. It is like one of those animals that attacks unprovoked. You never want to be near a hippo, right? The lion, the water buffalo, which you wouldn't expect because a water buffalo is like kind of like a wild cow, right? But supposedly we learned that the water buffalo, not only is it really aggressive, but it is really territorial and will remember you for a long time. So they have stories of like farmers who are hunters who got in their territory, and the water buffalo like forms a grudge. And the next time you come back to that area, the water buffalo is like waiting for you to attack you. And it remembers you even like years later. So the water buffaloes are quite dangerous, probably the most dangerous that we saw. And then the leopard. And the leopard is not an animal that I got to see, unfortunately, because it's an animal that hides a lot. It's really solitary. It's kind of like hidden in crooks and craggies and stuff like that. And it's really hard to contain a leopard. So even if you have a huge game reserve that's like thousands of acres and stuff like that, the leopard still will like find a way to get out and get away. And I forgot to mention, I think that I'm wrong about one of the big 5. It's not the hippo, actually, it's the rhino. So, intersperse that. So the rhino is also included there. And it's usually the white rhino that you see because the black rhino is really, really dangerous. So they don't usually have them on game reserves. So we go on this safari. It's like a small safari with only like a few people. Like I think there's 6 of us total. And the land that these animals are spread out across is huge. It's like a city. It's like thousands and thousands of acres. And they told us in hectares. I think it was 6,000 hectares. So I'm not really quite sure what hectares are, but it's pretty damn big. And the very first thing we see, like just driving into the reserve, are these beautiful cheetahs. And they're literally hanging out on the side of the road, just like waiting for us. And I kind of get scared a little bit. Like I'm just like, could the animal come to the car and stuff like that? And I've heard that when you're going on a game drive in a safari, that oftentimes the animal thinks that you are an animal, like the car is an animal. So because the cars are quite big, they usually don't attack like individual people in the car because they think the car is a big animal. And so that's why they don't want you to get out of the car or hang out of the car even. Someone like these Russian tourists were hanging out of the car, and the the driver got really mad at them really quickly. Is like, do not do that. Like, the animals will think that you are an individual human who that is now prey, and that they can get scared and confused and even attack and stuff like that. So these gorgeous cheetahs were just sitting there, and it was so majestic, so beautiful to see them. And we continue on in the journey, and we start to see, I think it's like some kind of antelopes next and stuff like that, like the really big ones. And then we see rhinos. And there's like 3 rhinos, and I'd never been this close to rhinos before. They are such a majestic and yet strange looking animal. Like, without the horn, the animal actually looks so weird. It has this like really weird long nose, right? But the horn kind of gives it some symmetry, some balance and stuff like that. But just watching them like roam around, and it's really sad. Like, rhinos are heavily poached because their horns are like precious to some kind of ancient medicine in different parts of the world. So they have to be like on guard. And I don't think that there's any rhinos right now. Well, I don't know any, but typically most rhinos are just not out in the wild by themselves. Like, they are on guard. There is someone who's in charge of making sure that like poachers don't come, and they come anyway, right? So they sneak into these places to go kill the rhinos, which is just like really, really sad to think about. And they're just like such beautiful big animals. It was kind of freaky to see them too, a little close. It's like, oh my God, if they could stampede you, they could like totally push over this car. But we saw them drinking, we saw them like running, just really cool. We saw like one like kind of charging the rest of the group, and there was kind of like a younger one, so that was really interesting. We see elephants next, these huge, beautiful African elephants. I've seen elephants before in Thailand, though the Asian ones are smaller. So the African elephants are the huge, big ones that, you know, just like really have that majesty and that gravitas, which is really, really cool. And what else? We see zebras, which is super interesting. We see the a type of what is it? Like an animal, I'm forgetting my word right now. It's like not an antelope, like a wildebeest. Oh yeah, with like the long nose. You've definitely like seen it in like The Lion King or something like that. And we see them running, like they're really scared of the car. So they just like, soon as they hear a car coming, they start running, like they're the animal that like freaks out totally. But it was like such a beautiful landscape, just seeing all these animals in the wild. Like, I wish I had one of those pro cameras where you could actually capture the detail. And I'm doing my best with my iPhone to like show pictures and stuff like that, because it was just so, so cool to see. And then the last thing we got to see was a lion. And her and her partner, or I don't know, the female and the male had just killed an antelope the like day before. And so that was like near them, next to them. So this wasn't like a fake safari where they like, basically they're in a zoo and they feed these animals. Like, no, they're living out there and they eat whatever they want, basically. And sometimes it's a giraffe, and sometimes it's a wildebeest and stuff like that. So we saw the female lion just kind of laying there, like kind of full still, probably from the feed and the hunt and stuff like that. Oh, and we saw giraffes. So majestic, so beautiful. Probably way more than I'm forgetting right now too, but it was just such a cool drive. And like, I want to go back. We actually were thinking of doing just a safari. So like staying 3 nights in a safari game reserve and then having like a morning drive and an evening drive every single day for a while. But it really wasn't working out logistically. Like, the place I wanted to go to, getting driven there was like impossible. And I didn't really want to rent a car the first time I was in South Africa myself. And you have to drive on the left side of the road and stuff like that. So that didn't work out. But this tour was really cool. We got to do the safari through this tour. And then we got to do like other things on the tour, see different places in, you know, South Africa. Some of them were on the coast and some of them were inland. We went to like the ostrich capital of the world that used to have these huge ostrich farms. And my husband ordered like an ostrich dish, and it definitely tastes like more beefy than chickeny, which is interesting. And the feathers are really beautiful, and they make like feather dusters out of the feathers and stuff like that. But this town was like this Western town. Like, it reminded me of like almost like an Australian or outback town, or like a United States like Western town. It was really, really interesting and fascinating to see that. And so that was really beautiful. Then the next day we do an elephant experience. And this is probably the highlight of the whole trip. So we go to this experience. It's also a game reserve, but these elephants like aren't as wild as the other elephants we saw that are just kind of like totally doing their own thing. They're actually saved as babies. So they found them murdered next to, or their parents were murdered, And they found these 3 babies, these brothers and sisters, next to their murdered parents that were murdered by poachers, which is just so sad. So they took them in and started raising them and wanted to like release them back into the wild and stuff like that. But the animals were so attached and like actually didn't like sleeping out and weren't really like out into roaming and stuff. So it just kind of became this place where like they have all the free roam. They're not like chained or trapped or anything like that. They have all the place that they want to roam, but they're actually just really attached to their human handlers who've been working with them for years. And it said that the human handlers had been like, if they left, the animals wouldn't trust other people for a really, really long time. So it was really, really cool because the handlers and they have such a special relationship. Other humans can get closer to these elephants, which is usually pretty rare. And the handlers are not doing, I know there's like a lot of different elephant experiences out there in the world, especially like in Thailand. They can be really shady. They're not treating the animals right. You could tell like these animals, these elephants were truly like free and could do what they wanted. And a lot of times like they're responding just like a dog, like they want food. So like they'll do whatever, walk this way or go this way for food and stuff like that. So we got really close up to these beautiful elephants. I even remember their names. It was Malika, Jabari, Bulelo. And I am already like moved. Like the vastness of how big they are. Like I'm already getting teary-eyed. I'm getting teary-eyed. I'm crying. I didn't think I would be moved that way. Like it wasn't one of my huge bucket lists to go on a safari necessarily. I think I was like influenced into it. And I hope this episode influences you too, because it's a really special experience. But I am so deeply moved by these majestic animals. I posted some of it on my social media as well, so go back and check it out. And we also get to feed them. So they give you like carrots, like huge carrots, and then you just like kind of like plop it. You can plop it into its nose and it doesn't eat through its nose. It like carries it, picks it up through its nose and then feeds itself through its mouth. Or you could plop it into its mouth, like with its tongue, with its huge, huge teeth and stuff like that, which is crazy. And then after you feed it, like it's grateful. Like they told us, the handlers, that these elephants started cuddling the people who were feeding them right after feeding them when they're babies. And they keep doing that now. So like after getting fed, they take their trunk and they like wrap themselves around you and give you like a little hug. Like, oh my gosh. The elephant trunk is like very wiry and like rough, but like you can tell it's this living, breathing, beautiful animal. And then we take some pictures with the elephants, and then we go walking with the elephants. And as soon as we go walking with the elephants, the like handlers are so much more on guard. They're like, get out of the way, move here, move there. Like you can tell, like, yes, these are beautiful, gentle animals, but like if you're in their way, this could be dangerous, right? So there's definitely that sense of like, this isn't just these tame dogs basically that are here to be played with. Like this is serious. These are wild African elephants at the end of the day. And it was just so beautiful to watch them eat. Like they were eating all the different leaves from these bushes, and the bushes were like prickly, but like that's what they eat. And I guess it doesn't hurt them or something like that. And just watching them like play in water and romp around and play with each other. So it was 2 brothers with a sister, and they would just play with each other and use their trunks to like, you know, touch each other and stuff like that. It was like one of the coolest experiences of my life. It truly was. And I looked up the like spirit meaning of an elephant, and it's all about like your life purpose. Like when you see an elephant, it's all about stepping so 100% into your purpose and what you're meant to do on your life path. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm melting. I'm crying. I'm melting. I'm feeding these elephants. It was so freaking special. Now, those were the good experiences that we had with animals, but they aren't always so good. So before my husband and I went on this tour, we actually did another safari with the retreat. And this one was a little bit closer to Cape Town and a little less natural. Like it wasn't as big of a game reserve, and the animals had like less space, but still a huge space, like bigger than like 7 high schools put together probably. But we got to see there also the big 5, except for the leopard, but like rhinos and all that kind of stuff. And that's a cool experience. The lions there are actually in a lion enclosure. So it's still a huge acre of land, but they're not able to then eat the other animals that are there. So the second one we did was a lot more wilder, a lot more like natural, just having these animals in a safe space. And I don't know if I can talk about every country in Africa, but what I was surprised to learn is like in South Africa, for example, these kind of wild animals aren't just in the wild anymore. Like there's not just lions hanging out somewhere in random places in South Africa. They're mostly all on these either game reserves or in national parks. So it's not like you're just going to encounter one walking to the store or something like that, basically. And they do that to protect them and to, it's huge expansive lands. Like the national park, for example, is huge, right? But it still is like, has a boundary to it. So it's not like a free for all where it's totally, totally wild and out there and everything. So in this other safari experience, the lions were in an enclosure so that they wouldn't eat other animals. And we saw a male there with like a huge mane, which was really cool to see. It looked kind of like, you know how when you see a big cat and you can see your own cat in it? Like you see the movements and the gestures that are just like your cat. And at one point, the big lion like laid down and I was like, that looks just like Huxley. Like that looks just like my dog, right? Because of just the mannerisms and stuff. It's so cool to see that, which is really special. But getting to the part of the story. So after that safari, and this is still with the big group with the retreat, one of the cars break down and we are like 2.5 to 3 hours away from Cape Town. And it doesn't break down, but the battery died and it's not starting. So they have to start calling people to come help and come start the car and stuff like that. So it's a little stressful or a little like uneasy, like not sure what's going to happen and stuff like that. And I'm the type of person who's like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom one last time while we're waiting here because I know it's a really long drive back. So I go to the bathroom in this safari camp. And, I'm a little kind of stressed out already. Like, okay, I got to get back to the car. What if the car starts and they're waiting for me and stuff like that? And in this kind of like brain, like just activity, like all this stuff going on, this huge black thing starts falling onto my shoulder. At first I thought I imagined it, right? At first I'm like, no, that didn't really happen, right? And I'm kind of like trying to hold my pants and my bodysuit in like a weird way. So I'm not like, my first reaction wasn't to flinch. It was like to finish peeing, right? And then I feel it. And I feel like I just got bit by something. And that's when I freak the F out and I start like trying to hit my shoulder and get it off me and just start freaking out and shaking it off and all that kind of stuff. And I get out of the bathroom and it's so interesting because if this would have happened in any other time, I would have been so fixated on what the hell just bit me, what just happened. But I think because my mind was so preoccupied with, oh my gosh, gotta get back in the car, gotta make sure you have a ride back to Cape Town, gotta make sure the car doesn't break down, I almost forgot to like look. I just was so preoccupied with the like need to get back to a car and to the safety of Cape Town that I didn't even give it much more thought, that I just got bitten by some wild, crazy thing that fell on me in a safari in the wild outback of South Africa. And I'm sure it was probably like a really big spider, like a black big spider, because I saw black. I was trying to talk about it with my husband later. I was like, I don't know, it could have been a spider or a scorpion. I think scorpions are usually a little bit more see-through though, so I'm pretty sure it was a spider. It was big, it was black. And so I kind of forget about it though for a while. I forget about it that night. We still have like the retreat stuff going on and all that kind of stuff. And then we go on the tour that just me and my husband do, and that's when I notice. And I look at my shoulder, and there are 3 huge welts and all these scratches on my shoulder. Now I start to freak out. Now I'm like, what the hell bit me? Is it poisonous? Do I need medical attention? Because what's interesting is that when I went to South Africa, my parents were like, please be careful. Please like be safe. And I don't think they were really that concerned necessarily with the like safety of the country when it comes to the people or theft or like, crimes of poverty and stuff like that. I think they were worried more about the wild animals and insects and stuff. My parents used to live in Libya, so my mom once got bit by a scorpion and it was the worst pain she'd ever felt in her life. And they know someone who went off to Africa to explore it and actually passed away from malaria. So for them, it was like, be really safe, be really careful. There's a lot more like poisonous, dangerous things out there that we might not have here. And so I'm like, oh shit. I am bit by this huge black thing. It left 3 huge welts. I have all these scratches that it must have scratched me as well, as it was either scampering or whatever was happening. And I also didn't even notice that first day because I was so preoccupied with everything that was going on and packing. So we're on the tour with another young lady and the driver and stuff like that. And I like ask her, we start talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it poisonous? Like if something were bad and poisonous, it would have happened by now, right? And just trying to figure it out. And, just to close the story, like, a few days keep going by, the welts get bigger, which is scarier more so now. But then eventually it starts dying down and now it's like fading. So we're okay. We passed the mark. Everything's fine. But at the same time, we have this really cool driver. He is a black South African and actually colored. So the difference is, I don't want to like have a whole history lesson here, but the people who consider themselves like indigenous of Africa call themselves Black Africans, and then people who are mixed race, so they either have the Black mixed with European or also Asian, because a lot of different Malaysian and Indonesian people were brought to South Africa as slaves. And so those people are called the colored people. So our driver was colored, and he starts talking about all these poisonous snakes in South Africa. And he's talking about like the deadliest ones, and like that's okay. That's scary enough, right? Like I'm not really a big fan of walking around in Australia just because I hate snakes. I don't even like really hiking sometimes where I live because there's rattlesnakes and they're poisonous as well. And I'm not so scared that the rattlesnake is going to attack me and eat me, but I am scared that he's going to get my dog, and because my dog might not be so smart with it. And once the rattlesnake gets my dog and we're on a hike and we're like 2 hours away from the car, like who's going to pick up the dog and get medical care? So I actually like walking by the coast now more so because there's not as many snakes there versus like in the mountains, because I just don't have to, I always think about it. I'm always fixated. And just a real quick aside, my mom's mom had two sisters when she was really, really young. So like this is my great aunts. My great aunts were born in the early 1900s, and this is back when that family was still farming and agriculture in a little town. And so when you had the babies, you put them in the field, and then you went back to work, and you went back to like cutting the wheat or whatever you're doing. And those two babies were killed by a snake. So the fear of snakes is definitely ingrained into my DNA. It is so much scarier for me to encounter a snake than a spider. I don't know how I didn't even freak out when the black thing got on me, but the snakes are where my bigger fear is. And so for some reason, the tour guide, his name was Neville, he starts talking about all the poisonous snakes of South Africa, and not only how poisonous they are, but how they attack you. So for example, like the black mamba doesn't just like get your ankles, it stands up and lunges itself at you. And so most of the attacks are at your neck and your shoulders, and it bites you multiple times on your neck and your shoulders. I'm like, what the hell? Does this snake have superpowers? He was talking about another snake, how it will just hiss at you, and if the liquid gets on you, it's just as bad as getting bitten, especially if it gets in your mouth or nose. So he was saying if you're ever hiking in South Africa, you should be wearing like a garter or a bandana or something like that. Then he was talking, I think, again about the black mamba or the puff adder, and he was saying how it can run super fast when it's attacking. And so if you think you can outrun it, run for the life of you. But if you can't, like start running in zigzags, because the snake has a harder time like zigzagging. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are these crazy Superman snakes that this man is talking about? Like, I'm already really, really freaked out. And so right that morning, as he was talking about it, we were going to go ziplining, and my husband wants to zip line and the other person on the tour wants to zip line, but I'm kind of not interested at this point. I've done it before, but I just didn't feel like it. But I'm like, what am I supposed to do when they're ziplining? And they're like, oh, you can go walk on this path, like this like hike. And I'm like, with the African snakes? Like, I don't think so. And so everyone's getting ready to zip line, and we're walking through to go to the path where it all starts. And I'm supposed to go on the path by myself, and everyone's going to be ziplining. And lo and behold, there's a puff adder there. One of the snakes that our tour guide was just telling us about that's super poisonous. Now, even the guides, the zipline crew, like everyone freaks out. Everyone understands how serious this is, like what a poisonous snake that is. And like, I'm in the back, so I'm like, what's going on? And then they're like, there's a snake right there. So I didn't have to like stumble on it, thank God. But I'm like, oh, holy shit, it's yellow. Like it's black and yellow. It has like these stripes. And I'm like, no way. My husband looks it up later. It is the most poisonous snake in the world. Like the venom is the most poisonous that you could have, and the deaths are the highest from that. So I'm like, oh no, we didn't. And so the snake starts like slithering back into the bushes. And I'm like, I'm supposed to walk on this path by myself. And so I'm kind of like, whatever, like, let's just go for it. So everyone's ziplining. I go walk on the path. And then one of the other staff members, who is like an African, was supposed to go and take pictures of my husband and this other person ziplining, and she doesn't go because she's too freaked out of the snake. She lives there. She does this for a living. She's doing the path all the time, and she doesn't go because of the snake, and I go, right? So it's just so funny. And totally one of those like worst fears, but obviously nothing happened. We're totally fine. It was just so uncanny that we just learned about all these crazy poisonous snakes, and then a puff adder is there. And the staff said, like, that is pretty rare. They don't usually see a puff adder just sitting there, like, at the property that you're at, and that it's the most poisonous snake in the world. So no thank you. And then my last animal encounter that wasn't so special is we're sitting in Utzhorn. So this is the ostrich capital of the world. And we are sitting outside and beneath like a big tree. So there's like a nice, beautiful, like Western house that the main restaurant is in. And we're sitting outside. And yet again, I'm wearing a jacket. So I don't even feel it. I just see it out of the corner of my eye. This huge black spider is crawling up my arm. And I'm like, no freaking way. How many black spiders are going to attack me in Africa? I freak the F out this time. Not like the first time where I kind of almost don't notice. I start trying to flinch it off and I'm like screaming and I'm like, oh, spider, you know, all that stuff. Totally embarrassing, my husband and everyone that we're with. And I'm like, what is going on? It was huge. The body itself was the size of like a nickel, right? And then the legs. Like, I'm like, how is it possible that these spiders are just falling on me and crawling on me and stuff like that? Thank God this one doesn't bite me, but what a fun journey. And the animals were so cool. The big, beautiful ones that didn't attack us. And obviously this, you know, the spider bite is fine and the snake, everything was fine and stuff like that. But that's just my little encounter that we had. And we go back to Cape Town and, you know, it's really so cool about like hanging out with Neville is that he tells us so much about what it's like to be a person of color in South Africa. And so, you know, a lot of Europeans came hundreds of years ago, a lot of people of Dutch descent, a lot of people of English descent, and there's a huge divide between the haves and the have-nots. Like you can really see it. There's these suburbs, and obviously with apartheid, it was all the law that like white people would live here, Black people or colored people would live in these townships that support the white people in the economy through their labor, but always the divide. And I was like really shocked to see that that divide's still there today. Like it used to be the law, and now it's just poverty and no opportunity that keeps people separate, right? And it was just like really hard to see and watch, because like no matter where we go, there'd be these townships. And I thought these townships were like obviously poorer communities, but I thought there are still houses, like apartments and stuff like that. And yes, there are those, and they're like government built and funded usually, but so many of them are just tin shacks, like literally scrap tin material made into the semblance of a house. And we just drove by so many of them. There's so many by the airport. There's all these signs by the airport, like do not slow down, do not stop your car, because there's so much crime of opportunity for people who are living in those conditions that would come rob you very quickly or something else. I met another South African of European descent, and she was saying she had lived there her whole life. And she was saying that back in the day, they used to drive their maid back into the township to drive her home at night. And now they can't do that anymore. That like 5-10 years ago, it got so unsafe that, you know, I was like, well, what would you be scared of? Like getting robbed? And she's like, no, getting shot. And so it's just really, really crazy. South Africa and Cape Town, like it's not technically known as one of the safest places in the world. There is like a lot of crime. There's a lot of different muggings and shootings and stuff that happens, obviously, from the poverty, the systemic inequality that's happened there. And so, you know, we're seeing it, and we're seeing it everywhere. Like it's not just Cape Town that is this like hub of people that are coming in to go get work. We're in the boonies, and there's townships everywhere. Like it's just the way of life that this is where these people live and these are where these people live. And I was even like shocked to see, like, for example, we were driving by wineries, and there's a lot of wineries in South Africa, and it's like very agricultural, and there's nothing else there. And all of the people who work in the winery are living in these townships, like the shack ones with the tin little houses, you know? And I'm like, why aren't the winery owners like building them houses or like housing at least? Like it just baffles my mind, but it's just the way things are and the ways things have been. And a lot of people live like illegally. So they're like squatting technically and living for free. And then like there's just been so many different things that are done to try to help, like free government housing. But we're hearing stories about someone will get the free government housing and then they'll rent out their house and then go live in the tin shack. So it's just like crazy, this level of poverty, this level of disparity, and learning it all from our tour guide, Neville, who also lived in a township. And it was just so incredible, like the perspective shift, where this man has a job and is really well educated and knows so much and yet still also lives in one of these areas. Like the divide between the have and the have-nots and upward mobility just seemed impossible. And it was like really hard to see like people of color who had wealth. I'm sure they're there, but it was just really hard to see. It just felt like such a divide. And it was like really obviously sad and hard to see, and also like very unsettling, like just not feeling sure of your own safety and stuff like that, as like maybe you're driving by a township or in an area that maybe isn't as safe and stuff like that. So really, really crazy. Just, I've been to very poor countries before, like India and places around the world like that. But I think this like really shook me, and how just different people live in different parts of the world. And I got home and I just looked up the average income around the world, and it's only $2,100. Not per month, per year, right? $2,100 per year is the average income around the entire world. And it just makes you think of how blessed we are, how lucky we are, how privileged we are. The lottery of birth, like you could have been born in Bangladesh, you could have been born in, so many different places around the world that have such a lower economic opportunity. And we weren't, you weren't, I wasn't. Why? And just trying to make as much of the opportunity that you do have, I think is what I was really, really left with, because it's so hard. And, I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship. I'm a big believer that anything is possible. I'm a big believer that now with like smartphones, anyone can lift themselves up. And even if you can't find an employer to employ you, you could start your own business and start your own website and share your gifts with the world. And I still think that's true. But even the stories we heard, for example, of like a woman living in a township, she would start to sell apples on the side of the road. And the money that she got from selling the apples, the gang would come and take it from her. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's just so sad to see like people trying so hard to lift themselves up and having such systemic blocks to being able to get out of those situations. So huge perspective shift, just huge feeling of how lucky I am, how privileged I am, how much opportunity we all have to, I know like you compare yourself to like the Joneses or to your neighbors, like it's always easy to feel like they have more than me or they have this and they have that. But I think it was just like one of those moments to just feel like, wow, I live in a country that's safe. I live in a place that's safe. There's so much upward mobility. There's so much opportunity. Like most of us living in any Western country have that. And to not take it for freaking granted, and to really make something out of that where so many other people would kill for that opportunity. So we were so thankful. We gave Naval a huge tip. And he says he's launching a t-shirt company. I can't wait to support it. Once it goes live, I hope it really does. I'm going to share it with you guys, this audience, and we're going to support him. And I met up with another friend. She's like a digital nomad, and I first met her in 2020. Like we had been friends forever, but we met in real life in Norway. She's been on the podcast too, Chelsea. And she was in Cape Town. So we got to meet on our way back. And, we got to talk about all these things that we're seeing and witnessing. And she was talking with one of her servers who wanted to be a writer. And she was telling him about Substack and how he can start writing there. And it was just so cool to see that, like, sometimes the environment you're in is what's going to dictate your opportunities, because the more you know and the more you understand of like what's available to you. And so many people don't have that access and that option, and it's just to like make something of it, like truly go make something of it, right? If you're making more than $2,000 a year, go make something of it, right? Like you have so much blessings in your life. And so I hope that this is a message of blessing for you. I hope I could influence you to go on your own safari. It was so much fun. It was so cool to see that. I'm so moved by those freaking animals, those elephants. I think I'm going to be going back. And really fun, right as we're leaving South Africa, we sit down at the lounge and next to like an older couple, like not a married couple, but like two friends who had come to South Africa. And they're probably like in their 70s or so, maybe late 70s. And one of the women has been there like 30 or 40 times. She just got back from Botswana. And she turns out she is a retired lawyer who takes photographs of beautiful animals around the world. She shows us her website, and it is jaw dropping. It is like, this should be on National Geographic. And I can't believe we're sitting next to her. And she's just like, I came here and I fell in love, and I've been coming back every year for years now. This is like what I love to do. She loves the animals. She loves the cultures. She loves Africa. And I can't wait to like maybe buy her photos for like prints and gifts and stuff like that. It's just so cool. And I could kind of feel it too. I was like, there's this love of this place, even though there's a lot of disparity, even though there isn't necessarily as much safety as we're used to. There is this love of this place, and I'm kind of excited to go back. I don't know if it's necessarily South Africa next, maybe another country in Africa or so. I survived my spider attack. The snake didn't get me. And I fell in love with those damn elephants, that's for sure. And a lot of the people that we met and the experiences that we had. So thank you, universe. I would have never been able to go if it wasn't for this entrepreneurial calling and stepping into my role as a coach. It's so cool to see where the world will take you when you go all out on your purpose. So I hope this was inspiring. And if you have any tips on next places to visit or just any takeaways from this episode, I'm just a DM away. All right, beautiful. Have a great rest of your day.